The outline for the next, today and tomorrow, and for the next 3 days as well, is basically this. You're going to hear this morning, or this afternoon rather, what trends and what challenges do we presently face. And that's what we call in the planning world, Jim and I are planners, current situation. Just what's going on. So what's happening in education, and what's happening in the economy, and what's happening in technical education. So a lot of trends, a lot of information is going to come at you pretty quickly in just a few minutes. So you'll want to be listening and you'll want to be paying close attention. That's the first piece of a session like this, is to say, what's the current situation, or what trends are going on that cause us to be here. If this is a transformation effort, if it's an attempt to make education better, it begins with let's all understand the current situation. And that's why you have some great experts to speak to you in just a few minutes about what trends and challenges do we presently face. If you have questions or comments, we would ask you to hold them until the presentation is finished and then raise those questions or comments, and we'll address those at that point in time. So, current situation is how are we doing? In planner language, we call that a SWOT analysis, which is just what it sounds like. It's an acronym, means strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. So we'll ask you, what are we currently doing well as a state in this respect? What are some areas that we need to improve in the state in this respect? When we look at opportunities and threats, we'll say, what barriers hold us back? What limitations? People will mention things like technology and resources and structure and different things, but we'll ask you what barriers hold us back. And then we will ask about what opportunities are there to learn from other states or other parts of the country where they've made more progress in this area than we have. That'll be an important part of the conversation that we'll go to next. One of the first things we'll talk about is vision and best practices. Now, planners, that language means something. And so let me explain so we all have the same definition. Our vision, which is what you're going to be asked to talk about in your first breakout session in just a few moments, is what if we got this right? Now, I know it's ever-changing and it's never done, but what if we as a state really fundamentally did significant work with this commission and what's already going on, which is already outstanding work, but what if we achieved all you can imagine that's potential in this area of improvement? Technical education and career education. What's your vision of what that could be? Now, why that's important is if you take a destination, if you go on a journey or take a trip, it's good to have an endpoint or destination in mind. So we will ask you, one of the first questions is to envision what this could become. Now, that's to use all your skills, to blue sky and innovate, to think about what could we imagine if we did the right things in the right way, in the right order. Envision what this could become. Because all great changes starts with a bold vision. That somebody or some group of individuals come up and say, you know what we could do? You know what's possible? You know what collectively we could accomplish as a state? That's what a vision is. So we're going to ask each of your breakouts initially to take a look at that vision for what's possible in this effort that you've been asked to participate in. Now, we acknowledge that we're going to learn some things later today and tomorrow and in subsequent sessions that's going to enlarge our vision. Because we're going to learn some things that maybe some of us weren't aware of. And by what we learn, we may even have a more bold vision tomorrow or next week or next month than we do today. So we'll come back to that vision before we finish this work with this commission. But one of the first things we'll ask you is, what's your vision for Alabama if we got this area right? We'll also ask for best practices. What do you know of? Do you know of specific examples of where people are doing very effective in other communities or other states or even other countries? It is in our world of mostly working with businesses to do long-range planning. They unabashedly learn from other great businesses. Who else is doing this very well? And we should do the same. I know educators do the same. But we want to ask you, what do you know of that may be an example for us to learn from? We don't have to make all the same mistakes that other folks may have made before us. So we'll ask you about examples of best practices. We'll talk about the primary issues. One process we use, and it's been very effective for us for over 30 years, is to narrow the issues down and prioritize them. Because all of us could identify 10, 15, 20, 30 different things that need to be worked on. Probably more than that if we worked at it. But they're not all equally important. So part of what we will do is to get us to identify the issues and then in subsequent sessions to prioritize those issues. What are the 3 or 4 greatest issues that we need to address, or barriers, to be able to accomplish that vision that you're going to help us define? And then we'll address those issues in priority fashion. We're not going to worry about number 26 or number 28 until we address number 1 and 2. So you'll help us to prioritize and identify. That'll all come from you, by the way. It won't come from us. You'll tell us what those issues are and what the priorities are. Goals and objectives, we will ask you to take a cut at what success look like. In fact, we'll ask it in just that fashion. What is success for this entire initiative? I want you to think hard, and I want you to think specifically. If we get this right and it works, and 5 or 10 years from now somebody says, what a great piece of work that was. Somebody in Alabama says, that really made a fundamental difference. I want you to begin to think about what difference did it make. Is it in employment levels? Is it graduation rates? Is it skill proficiency? Is it, what difference did it make? So we'll also ask you to begin to think about, define success for this commission and this initiative. Success in ways that can be monitored and measured. Because in our world, it doesn't really matter until it makes a difference. And so we'll ask you, what difference do you want this to make in that term? What does success look like? And that'll be another important discussion.